Burger King. Have it your way. You got it? So these are the things that people remember them from. At Caribbean Jerk Cuisine, a flavor to remember. Right? Because have it your way. I remember I was in Jamaica one time and I had some missionaries there, and we went to Burger King for breakfast. And they were all in the restaurant, and they were telling them how they want their meal. And one of the girls was just telling them, this is how I want it and whatever. And they said, no, we don't do that. And they right away, they touched me and said, Papa. And I said, what's up? They said, they won't do it that way. I looked at him right away and I said, isn't your slogan, have it your way? Right away, they fixed it. Right? So not only are you supposed to obtain or recognize your slogan, but you have to live by it. You have to go by it because people hold you to that. All right? Every single day when I taste my food, the flavor has to hit my brain. Following? I got to remember this thing. Right? So therefore, so when you develop those names, make sure they all make sense. It's hitting your product. It's hitting the idea of what it is. So research. Without that sustainability audience, you won't be able to be successful at publishing and putting out your idea. Understand that no amount of passion will lead you to profit unless you do it. You make sure that the front end of everything is put to place. So you could be passionate about it all you want, but if your name is not right, if your slogan is not right, if you don't have a mission statement, oh, I'm passionate about it, but nobody's coming. Right? Because the get-go, the start, what's the word? Foundation, thank you, has to be right. Okay? In your market search, consider other factors that could impact cash flow and profitability, including legal and regularity issues. So in other words, you have to have an idea, you have to know that you could run into certain things, and you have to work those out. You have to have those ideas of cost perspective. How do you get through these things? So irregularities will hit you. If these factors support your business idea, it's time for you to move to the next step, and that next step is to go to planning. So once you get your name, once you get your slogan, once you get your mission statement and your research and you get all that in, your next step is to start planning. All right? And the planning stage is the part that takes a lot of, this is where earlier I said, you not only want to be your own boss, but you want to do it on your own terms. Planning. What do we do every single day? We plan certain things. How are we going to do this? How are we going to accomplish this? Now, that's the same thing with your business. You have to plan it out. This is your first business. If this is your first business, you should create a formal plan for every decision. One of the first things I did after researching my business name and making sure that it was, like I can tell you right now, just almost like I could tell you when we thought about Beulah Worship Center, we know Beulah is mentioned one time in the Bible in the book of Isaiah. I knew that, right? You research that and you make sure, right? It's the same way I could tell you that Caribbean Jerk Cuisine only found one time in Texas. See what I'm trying to say? So I made sure that I'm not doing the same thing everybody around me is doing. So now that I know that, I also jump in and I see what they do, what kind of food they provide, what is it that they, and what's so funny is that not very long after we opened, someone called with a huge reservation. They send us the paperwork, we set everything up, and then we realize it's for the guy in Texas. It was for the guy in Texas. They thought we were in Texas, but yet they saw our food. So when I called them to find out what happened, they said, I saw your food, but when we went back and searched, Texas address came up. So they were loving our look, but the location was off. Right? So here, for example, when you look up Caribbean food, if you put it in your phone right now, Caribbean jerk cuisine is the first run. If you put in food truck right now, Caribbean, Jamaican food truck, Caribbean jerk cuisine pops up. Why? We made sure there was no other. You got it? Oh, he's going to test me too. Actually, I like it. That's good though. I like it. I like it. We're in class. I like it. All right? So a secondary benefit, you can also present this. Let's see. Okay, so the business plan. I was talking about the business plan. The business plan becomes your working roadmap. One of the first thing I did, I was mentioning, is make a business plan after research. And the business plan is for you to not only present it to a lender, or if you're dealing with someone a partner, you guys have a plan, right? But the business plan for me was more to do exactly what the scripture says, write the vision down and make it plain, right? Because what happens when you don't write your vision down, you keep on finding different ideas and you go off track, right? But if you write it from the get-go, you know exactly what you're going after and you stay on track. For example, when I wrote my business plan asked for a certain amount of money. My business plan identified all the other restaurants around that does food truck or doesn't do food truck. It identifies whether or not, it identifies what standard I want to maintain and what restaurant is equal to that. And mine was Chick-fil-A, right? The standard, not the food, but the standard of customer service, right? Mine was that. And the way I did mine, when you go to Chick-fil-A actually says, never says you're welcome. Always my pleasure, right? Mine was, or is, no problem. Still, in other words, to me, anywhere you go and you do something, I want to always express that no problem at all. But it depends on how you say that no problem, right? So that's key for my business. So you have to be able to say, so my staff haven't gotten that down pat yet, but we'll get there. But no problem. So when somebody asks for something and I get it to them, and they said, can I get this? And I said, of course, no problem. Thank you. No problem at all. No problem at all. In other words, I'm at your service. I'm ready. I'm here to serve you. One of the things my customers love to hear, like they're there and they're debating whether, can I do this or is it okay to do that? I'm like, you're in charge. The moment I say that, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm in charge. And that's cool. I don't bring up money to them. I don't let them know it's going to cost extra. I don't do all of that. It depends on how their reaction is that I will say, yeah, it's going to be an extra charge. But almost no time I have to say an extra charge. The bottom line is, you're in charge. It's whatever. And when you're in charge, you pay for it. You got it? Yeah. In the restaurant, I would say, if you break it, you buy it. So if I break something, I know I have to buy it. So when you're in charge, you're in charge. So the business plan is very important. It lays out. So mine laid out several things. It also laid out where I want to be in a year from now, where I want to be 2 years from now, and where I want to be 5 years from now. Right? So we call it short-term and long-term plan. Right? For me, I wrote that in my business plan, stuck with it, stayed with it, and my first year, I wanted to make sure we were up and running and we start making money within the first year. Within the second year, I wanted to be able to be into a restaurant. On the 5th year, I wanted to own our own brick and mortar. Kid you not, we were able to do exactly that. Why? I had a plan that I trust myself and discipline myself, said I have to get to what my plan says. Right? And for a lot of people, it doesn't always work that way, but you have a schoolmaster. You have something to flow with. Did you find that? What came up? What come up? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So my point is, if you make the plan, if you do it right, because it's either you plan to fail or fail to plan. No, that's not how they say it. They said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's it. Right? So that is why planning is very important. Not only am I researching, but I'm going to plan. One of the biggest things I found working in the restaurant industry is that when it gets busy, if you had your stuff already lined out, you can knock anything out. I work on the line, and I'm telling you, things get busy. But the time when things starts to go south is when we start running out of food. When we have to start correcting someone's order. When somebody takes the wrong order and we have to remake it. Right? So the planning of that is to create strategies, such as somebody takes the order, repeats it back to them, take their name. When they go to the window to collect it, we call their name, we repeat the order to them before we give it to them, and they say, yeah, that's me. Then you give them the order. So there are layers right there, but unfortunately sometimes, even that, not the staff, the customer. You see what I'm trying to say? But how do you navigate through that? Make sure you have an extra one already pre-done, ready to go, just in case you have to bounce back again. That's plan, right? You know you're going to have 100 people. Make sure you plan out. You have all those chicken breasts. You have all those chicken legs, whatever, already pre-ready. So you're able to put it out. If you plan, you get through successfully. Kind of the same thing with your business plan. Plan it out. Stick with it. All right? If you don't know how, okay, go ahead.
I should have asked this question probably a long time ago.
Oh, my. He's smiling, Jesus. Go ahead. Yes. Risk, yes.
How do you process that in your plan? Just the risk. And I say that because for me, even with the planning and everything, the research, I understand all of that. But there's a way that we think. And so the thought that goes into the risk factor.
Yeah.
What are some of the thoughts that are part of it?
Very good question. I like that. Because even though I say risk, there's more to it than just saying, oh, I'm just going to step out in faith. I don't care what happens. When you have your bills at home, when you have your baby that needs meals, when you have your bills that are just piling up and you have to keep it, you have to use a lot of wisdom. For example, whenever I was stepping out in faith and saying I'm going to start going full-time ministry, my wife was the one that was working. She had to keep up with her work. And when I decide to do it, the Lord is the one that opened that door. So again, you have to decide because a lot of times people only do it based on what they can see. And that's the business part of it. But in faith, we have to believe to an extent. And then God begins to open those doors. But the risk factor, what I did, for example, I worked at another restaurant while I was building the business and doing my research. Here was my schedule. I work in the evenings from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock at the restaurant. I get home and I work all night up to about 3, 4 o'clock, researching, putting things together. And then I get up about 9 o'clock and go to places like business places like the county or different places that I need to re-verify things or while they're open, and leave straight from there and go to work. That was a cycle for about a year and a half, because of the setup, because of the vision and the intent, the things that it takes, the detail that it takes for the wide of a vision that I wanted to do. So this wasn't just Missions to the Nations. This was Caribbean jerk cuisine. Somebody asked me, so how did you come up with this recipe? I started working on my jerk chicken recipe my jerk recipe from 2004. And how did I work on that and how did I play it out? I was also in charge of the cafeteria for Thursday night meals at the college. So every opportunity I get, I put out jerk chicken. I did a deboned jerk turkey for Thanksgiving, exploring my recipe. So going back to risk, while I was working on the details of what the business requires. So I had an income, but I know that that income is temporary. Because what I wanted to do, be my own boss, my own terms, right? So to really say I'm taking a risk, we are taking a risk because at some point you're going to have to let that job go if you want to truly pour into that idea. And business comes back to an idea. You get an idea or you see a need. You see a problem. That's how your business idea develops. So yes, so risk it comes from, you take that risk, but you have to use a lot of wisdom. How do you get to your business idea? Did that answer your question?
Yes, yes it did.
Awesome.
For me, it's mindset.
Yeah.
And what I hear is a very, I would say, a very focused mindset, a mindset that definitely you did the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the good part. For me, and then there are different stages in life too. So, like you said, at any age you can do it. And
Yeah.
that's where I am because I lived in such a secure environment for
Right.
so long.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for the U.S. government for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And so you talking guaranteed this, guaranteed that.
Yes.
There was no risk involved.
Mm-mm.
It's whatever comes with military life, and of course that's wars, but those things you prepare for and
You just understand.
The environment I was in,
Yeah.
from a financial perspective,
Yes.
was very, very secure.
Right.
And so that's where I think I have my biggest confrontation.
Mm.
Is looking past what was a promotion that I made because I was a recruiter for so long.
Right.
And I sold a product that nobody could test drive
Mm-hmm.
or taste or anything. They just had to believe what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things was the benefits that come along with something as simple as sure pay. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what does that mean? That means you sure enough gonna get paid as long as you enlist. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And so simplicity, things like that, which has also confined me to a certain level of
Mm-hmm.
lack of wanting to take risks, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now the church, I promise you, is doing very well. We did things exponentially, but then that goes back to my total confidence in God and
Right.
not me.
Not me. Yes.
But when I start talking entrepreneurship,
Kind of shifts gears a little bit.
I'm on a whole nother
Yeah, and again, and I know that we'll take a question right here as well. Yeah, and again, I know that to me personally, I think that's a gift, and I not question myself, but sometimes I'm like, what in the world? How in the world I do this? So the only conclusion I can come up with is a gift, and it is for so many things. It's almost like somebody would ask how to do this, and it's like the Lord just filled my mouth with the right words, and it's reality. And I've had entrepreneurs to come back to me and say, thank you so much for that, because based on what you said, I was able to do this. I remember not very long ago, maybe a year or so ago, I had a food trucker that came and met with me, and everywhere I see him now, but that's before he started his truck, and everywhere I see him now, he made sure he gives me a big hello, and he's telling me how he's doing, and he's doing good, and then I would see something, I would say, man, you need to do that, and he said, okay, I'm going to, so little things like that really, but it's a risk. It's a risk, but a biggest part of overcoming those risks is to getting advice from people that have been there, done that, get a T-shirt and a hat, okay? In other words, they have failed a couple of times, but they're still strong. And that's something else I would say to you. a part of your research, you need advice. And you need to invest in sitting down for consultation, right? Say, all right, talk to somebody. For example, the restaurant I was working for, me and the boss, the person that we're great friends up until today. In fact, he is a part of my board of directors, right? For Missions for the Nations. He's a part of my board of directors. We have developed an amazing friendship that I can go to him at any time and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll hear him. I'll take out what don't work, and I'll grasp what works. And that's kind of the same thing you have to do with research. You can't just copy and paste somebody else's idea and think it works for you. It doesn't. You have to just hear how they deal with it, decide this line works for you, but the other person over here, this line works for you, and you put those two together, and now you have that and that makes sense, right? But not just copy and paste and say, that's it, doesn't work. Your question.
My question is for people who think a little too much, like overthinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I do backslide on that, but I pray about it every day because my mind just rapidly grows.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to business aspects, for someone who likes to have a plan ahead,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that is labeled as too much preparedness?
Okay.
Like having extra contingency plans. If this one fails, I have a plan C to a plan B to a plan E. Is that too much or too taxing?
No.
As a business owner?
I am, in fact, that's me. And in fact, that's a very effective way of being a business owner and a successful business owner. You have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, and sometimes plan D. In what I do today, not only do I have plan A, plan B, plan C, but I am ripe for anything at any time. So not only do we have Beulah Worship Center, and we could think about it in so many different ways. We can think about it from a liability standpoint, right? What's plan A, what's plan B? God forbid if somebody goes after Beulah Worship Center, are they going after Missions for the Nations, right? If they go after Missions for the Nation, are they going after Beulah Worship Center? We could think of it from a restaurant standpoint. If the restaurant doesn't work, what's my plan B now that I bought a building, right? What else could I put there, right? So yes, plan A, plan B, plan C, and sometimes plan D. The more plans after another is very important, but you got to have a focal point. At the end of the day, even though you have plan A, plan B, plan C, they all have to bring you to the same result, all right? So you can't have these plans and say, well, I'm going to use plan C, but plan C is going to put me over here. The plan C is supposed to maybe bring you there slower, but at the end of the day, it's got to be the same plan that you've had from the beginning, all right? So I'm big on that, and I think that every business owner and everyone that desires to go forward should have that. But the part of overthinker, I think the part where that will become a problem is if you are in the situation and almost like you're confusing the people that's around you. Like you're like, I don't want to do it this way. Just because you're doing a business on your terms, you're not even staying with the terms that you wrote down. That's where it becomes a little bit awkward. You're like, well, let's do it this way because that's not working right now. No, you have to have a plan, right? And things happen where you didn't have a plan, but you have to be adaptable, right? Where you're quick to adapt to something different. So does that answer your question? Awesome.
Her question causes me to remember something I taught when I was an educator for a while. And the bigger part of that was appreciation of differences, celebrating those differences, but then there are different types of people too. So my concern is that she's not the planner and that's all and not an executor. planners together,
Yeah,
that's all you're going to come up with.
that's right.
So you got to have the builder, you got to have the relator, and then you're going to have that person that really say, listen, let's just go for it.
Hmm.
You know, so all
Which-
of that is a part of what I'm hearing and
Yeah.
question, because you can plan and plan and plan and plan and never take the first step.
Yeah, but I think, and I get it, but I think to be sure that, because definitely you don't want to plan and just having plans that you're going to fall to. The planning that I'm talking about is we are going to push the first idea to its limit. And if for whatever reason the first idea is not getting you the result you need, let's fall on plan B. All right? That could also be as simple as, let's try to open the mic and remove the battery. This is the only mic we have, or this is the mic we have. If this mic if I open it and remove the battery and the battery is not the problem, what's your plan B? Plan B is that we're going to get one with a wire and we're going to bring it over here. You see what I'm trying to say? So you having a thought process of what's next if that doesn't work, because you're going to run into problems, right? And you're definitely going to have problems because you have identified a problem to start a business. You see what I'm saying? And that is why it's called seeing a problem, identifying a problem, and you're becoming a solution, because you're going to see other problems, right? But sticking with the plan that you've started out with. So good question. I hope that gives you guys answers. All right, any other questions? You guys, I want to make sure you get the answers you need. Another thing that you need to do is structure. All right, this is very important. So not only will you plan, not only will you research, but you need to have a good structure. Although you may know the type of business you want to start, you now need to consider the legal structure. It's the legal structure that you want to use. All right? So very important for you to know whether or not you want to use LLC, the LLC structure. One thing I'll tell you about LLC is that people always jump to LLC because that's what makes them feel like they are a business owner. But LLC is not relevant to start a business immediately, all right? Because, and we'll get to it, definitely, she's going to need the mic back. But it's not relevant to start a business immediately. Because here's the thing, the only time you have to be very careful and ready for an LLC is when you have something to lose. Okay? Following? All right, so LLC is a legal structure. LLC technically protects your home. For example, you have your personal home, you're paying for your personal home, you have your kids' investment, so on and so forth, and you have a business that is not an LLC. They come after and if they try to sue your business, they will also sue your home, sue you for what you have. But an LLC develops a separation between you and your home, right? So that's where that legal structure comes in. So you have to decide, am I just going to do a sole proprietor or a LLC structure, right? Sole proprietor is almost like where you do everything from your home, you do everything within, you file it with your taxes, everything is the same. But then you have to consider LLC. Go ahead.
So my question is, because that's a really interesting thing that I never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just jump to LLC.
Correct.
Because it's the most advertising, it's the most well-known. So for people who want to expand further, are there different types of legal structure, like under abbreviations like LLC or sole proprietary, like are there different ones that people should know about or should start to learn about before they start the idea of a business?
I think that there is never enough. There's never too much research that you can do to know all that. Like you said, it goes right back to the overthinking and making sure that you know everything before you actually go into it. But I know that the most common is the sole proprietor or the LLC. Sole proprietor is more of, again, I could just come from Europe, land in the United States, and say I'm going to start a business. I have nothing to lose. I just want to start my business. I'm not thinking LLC, right? If something happened, God forbid, and I have insurance, they sue me, they go, the insurance pays that, that's good. If they say I want to sue you too, there's nothing to sue me for, right? Now that you have something, you get your house, you start, your money starts to work, everything starts to work for you, you go buy your house, you definitely want to convert your business now to an LLC. LLC now protects your house or protects your families. So therefore, the business is paying you versus the money goes in your account and you buy stuff for the business. Does that make sense? So there are other ways, but yes, those researches I recommend. Yeah.
So in technicality,
Mm-hmm.
how I'm perceiving it is that when it comes to being an entrepreneur, all of these tools intertwine. Because with research, I'm hearing like with structure and research and planning, it all intertwines, right?
That's correct. Knowing what you're going for. So going all the way back to planning, knowing exactly what it is that you need. But if you were just doing it just to say, oh, let me see what I can explore, then you could be diminishing or hurting your plan. But if you know what you want, like for me, when I say I'm going to start Caribbean Jerk Cuisine, I know exactly what I want. Here is what I want. I want the very first Caribbean fine dining or Jamaican fine dining restaurant ever in South Carolina. That's in my mind, right? What it's going to take to do that, now I have to research. What are you researching for? Is there research to see what LLC is the best? I'm going to get advice on that, right? That's important to me because that's not what I know what I want, and that's what I'm sticking to. What I want is the very first and only, as long as it possibly can be, fine dining Jamaican restaurant in South Carolina or anywhere around here. What it takes? Research, advice. Who have done it before? Go to a bunch of places and eat. Go to some other fine dining restaurant, Jamaican fine dining restaurant somewhere else and see how it is. That's how you research, even in a practical manner. So it all intertwines, but staying with the vision. So you're not required, let me say this, you're not required to know everything when you have the idea. You at once, like knowing it to going in, then you wouldn't need anyone. You just need to know what you want, find the right avenues to give it to you, right? Yeah, if you know what you want and you have the right people connected to you, you will get it, right? You don't have to be the best at social media. You don't have to be the best at cooking. It's always great to know some. You don't have to be the best at public speaking. You just have to know what you want and find the right people to surround you, all right? And start taking the right step. Fortunately for me, I know a lot of it, all right? So everything I've done, I also know how to do it. Or everything others do, I know how to do it, all right? Organize. Let's go to that one, and I'm coming down here. I don't want to keep you guys past 1 o'clock for the whole session, okay? Your structure will need help to decide how to organize your company. So organizing your company is very important. You'll probably be, of course, wearing many hats, right? But at some point, because in our media class this morning, Anthony says that you might be all these people, okay? You might be the production director, you might be the engineer, you might be the camera guy, you may be everything, right? So when you start your business, you have to wear all the hats. It's the bottom line. But it's important to understand that eventually you need a marketer, you need a sales team, you need finances, you need HR. You need that HR department. You need help, right? So at first, it's your hat. My Pastor Eric and I, one time we said we're going to do, maybe we can get Pastor Philip in there as well. We said we're going to do a sermon one day, label a bunch of hats and put them all on our head. All the things we do as pastors. Pastor, you understand what I'm saying? You got to wear all the hats. And the more you find trustworthy people and people that people that synchronizes with your vision, you begin to take that hat off and put it on their head. But here's the thing that people think is easy. You take that hat off and you put it on their head and you think, whoo, that's good. No. The moment you take that hat off and you put it on their head, you're like, I hope they're going to keep it for a while. And that's kind of the same thing in business. You have to also be prepared to take it back if necessary. Right? And then once you get your organizing done, you put things in place, you organize it, know that listen, this business is going to need an HR, it's going to need so again, even though you're laying them out, you may have to be the one wearing those hats. So you're going to be your advertiser, you're going to be the one, the salesperson. Yesterday, I think we had somebody was a little bit irritated at the fact that a server was cashing, or they cashed, and then they went back and they had to get their food and bring it forward. She was a little irritated. I'm like, and I walked in seeing her, how irritated she was. And I'm like, everything okay? You know, and she's like, I just don't like, but I understand. But I also let her, I smoothed it and let her go because I knew what was going on. I knew that very minute. We were short-staffed. You see what I'm trying to say? And who was there was just trying to make it work, right? That's because one person sometimes has to wear many hats. Then after you structure it out, you know what you'll need for your business, then you consider hiring, right? You consider hiring. It's hire time. But at some point, you'll probably consider this because you can't do it all by yourself. But it's never too early to establish best practices for hiring and onboarding. So not only do you hire, but you have to consider, how do I train someone and how to do what you know to do? Yeah? See, for me, it's in me. I can walk back there in the daycare and I could see someone doing something, and I don't have to go look at the handout, at the handbook. You know why? I know it. I wrote it. Yeah? Could be in the organization and somebody doing something. I don't have to look at the bylaws. I know it. Yeah? And you have to now decide, how do you train someone to know what you want them to do when there's a circumstance or something shows up? And that sometimes can be the toughest thing. That was the toughest thing for me in business, is to start to delegate. It's the toughest thing. But delegation is important, and you cannot expect them to do it the same way you did. So hiring, that means that you have to start creating a formal job description, right? You have to start developing legal requirements, whether it's writing a contract, making an agreement with people. Talking about employees now, you have to start paying employees. You have to think about an accountant. Who's going to file your taxes? Who's going to keep all the receipts, make sure everything is in place? Right? So you start to develop a work environment and a culture that reflects your values, or the values that you have established. Remember, you started a business to become your own boss. For what reason? Solve a problem on your terms. Right? So now you have to show this to everybody. So putting that framework in place early will help you to attract and retain people so your business can continue to grow. All right, so now that we're going to go through it again, we do our research. we do our planning, we do our structure, organizing, and then we dig into hire. The next big thing to do is to test. Okay? Because everything, remember now, you spend all the time there is to prepare for this business launch. You have to do the test. This was the fun part of me starting anything. It's testing. I'm going to tell you how I did it. Because, and like I said, I started working on that jerk chicken recipe for years. But once you put everything together and you decide to test, it's going to cost you to test, so you have to put that in your budget. So there's a lot of people that's going to say, give me a burger, or you will be willing to give them a burger to test. But you have to find the right people, right? Not somebody that's going to take advantage of your product, but somebody that's going to be honest with you. Somebody's going to, that you can, family members, whoever it is, that you can just be straightforward and they tell you the truth, right? That's how you test it. So you need some testers. So testing early often helps minimize problems that could show, that could slow cash flow down. Because when you don't have a problem to deal with when you are actually in the business swing, that's the plus. You've got to do a test. All right? So the right is to test early. So it's best for you to try to test as many times as possible. The way I tested, for example, go back to the burger. When I did the burger, I wanted to know, how long will it take for the burger to become soggy? How long will it stay warm? So I would take burgers and I'll send it to Georgetown. So they can't come to the restaurant. Not the restaurant. I was at the house at that time. And I'd make the burger and I'll put it and I'll send it in a package. I'll package it and everything and I send it. And I said, I'm documenting the time, how long you got there. And I want to know how it is. And they tell me. It was solid. It was juicy. I got all that feedback. Jerk chicken pasta. One thing, if you don't know about pasta, there's a couple of things about pastas. Number one, you do not give an Italian overcooked pasta. Right? And second thing about pasta, when Alfredo gets tight, it will choke you. So then I do a test. When I make that pasta and I send it somewhere, how long will it remain warm? And what do you do if it actually gets tight? So you tell them what to do, right? So those are very important. For example, if the containers we use keeps it warm for a long time, and you don't have to transfer it to another container to microwave it. They just put it right in the microwave. So all those things were thought through. They put it right in the microwave, and it's microwavable, and it is healthy to microwave through with that container. I think about all those things, and then. If you're going to microwave it, I recommend they pour a little bit of water or a little milk. Brings it right back up to as if nothing happened. So in other words, if you're going to do that the next morning, that's all you have to do. It's like new. Testing. I paid a lot of money for testing. People come in, they're trying it. They said, are you doing this for free? Yes. Because it's not about the now. It's about later. Yeah. Exactly, you build it for the future. So testing is very, very important. All right? And then number 7 brings you to the favorite part, marketing. One of the most critical ways to promote your business success is to pursue your target market. That if you're going to you just don't advertise to everybody. Yes, you want to advertise to everybody, but you've got to know in your mind what's your target. What's the market? Who do you want to find your product, and who do you want to? If you don't know that, you try to please everybody. Yeah. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, and no offense to our Jamaican community, but when I did Caribbean jerk cuisine, my target market was not specifically for Jamaicans. Even though Jamaicans are there, but within the category or my target market. They are in there with a different term. For example, business owners, people on vacation, they are in it. But most of our other Jamaican restaurants, their target market is Jamaicans that are in the area that can come and get a grip. That's not what I did. My target market are people that have been to the islands and want to get a reminder, people that want an introduction before they go to the islands, and quick business lunch for people that can come and grab a lunch and go back to work. That's my target market, right? But if I did it specifically for Jamaicans, then I would promote and market in that way, but that's not how I do it. So therefore, when a Jamaican comes in and they would say, what you have? That's a common question you get asked in a Jamaican restaurant. What you have? What you have on the menu? Okay? My market and my setup is not for you to ask my staff what they have. If it's on the menu, we have it. So they'll tell you, I get a little frustrated when I hear somebody say, oh, we don't have that. We're out. I try to make sure whatever is on that menu is what's available. Okay? That's important. So that's the part. So that's the terms that why? Because I identify that that's a problem. If you look at any other reviews on the Jamaican restaurant, they will say the same thing over and over. Two things: customer service, and they always run out of stuff. Availability. Those two things. So when I did my research, how can I solve that problem? You following? That's how you fix it. So you recognize what's the problem, and you begin to fix that problem. So when you come into my Caribbean restaurant, I don't want to hear, I'm out. And I don't want to hear, whatever, go somewhere else. And let me tell you, but it's in Jamaica, though, the culture there is really, it's incredible. You would go to a restaurant today, and they'll fuss you out from over the counter, and you'll be back there tomorrow. Yeah, because there's a great demand for fast food in Jamaica. It's very rare you go somewhere and there's not some interaction going. So again, you recognize what you want to do, and now that you identify your target market, you market to those people. You market to those people. I had to do a commercial recently, TV commercial, and I asked the guys, I said, now that you know my target market, what channels are the ones I should put it on, right? And I asked them, and they said, okay, they give me a list. But I had some of my own. They gave me 3, but I gave them 5. I said, I want CNN. You see it on CNN? Yeah. I said, I want it on Food Network. Yeah, because when people are looking, how many of you watch TV late at night and you see them cooking something and you're like, I'm hungry now? That was my idea, is to say, all right, let's see it, and now you want to go. I want to put it on HGTV when you're done watching all the house building stuff and you're working around the house. Now I want to go get something to eat, and I want it on the Travel Channel. People are out and they want to know what's in the area. Boom. So you target what it is that you want, and you go after that. And then you'll see the result. You market for that. So my biggest goal is to get to where all I'm doing in the restaurant in the evenings is fine dining reservation only. That's the mission. That's the goal. Are we doing fine dining now? Absolutely. We've met that. But what the biggest goal is to get to the place where all we're doing is reservation only. All right? So that is that. I don't know if I'm going to go too much more without some questions. I'll give you an opportunity for great questions. There's so much more to give you. Let's see here. We have marketing. We have continuing to learn. That's something that you shouldn't skip out on. Is continue to learn. Never stop learning. Many entrepreneurs, they stop learning too quickly. It's worth consider adding this to your plan, that you will always go and educate yourself, find seminars, things of that nature to go to. All right? And then the other thing that you need is networking. All right? You got to network. All right? If you don't, networking requires, it's a good hustle. It's connecting with people when you go to conferences. Connect with people online, people that are in the similar business, but not giving away your idea. Very important, right? You give away your ideas, then you see it show up later on. Somebody else is doing it, all right? So always network. Let's see here. And I don't recommend that you go to events with your sole intent of pitching people to sell, to sell your product. I don't think you should go with your sole intent to, I just want to sell my product. You should go with the intent to make connections, learn. Because when you go to sell, people don't want to be around you. Right? I could speak and they want to buy, but not selling them in that speech. That's very important, right? But if somebody feel like, they're trying to sell me something now, you're not making connections. Yeah? All right, so coming down to the last few. A great entrepreneur help other entrepreneurs achieve their business goals, creating mutual success. A great entrepreneur help other entrepreneurs achieve their business goals, creating mutual success. If you are a good entrepreneur, you'll be willing to see somebody else through. That's a big thing with me. I want to see somebody else do great. One of the things I try to stay away from, though, is if somebody's doing the exact same thing that we're doing, I definitely don't try to network with them because that becomes conflict of interest. But if somebody is an entrepreneur in some other areas and you can be of help and support to them, each one reach one. That's the mission. But I don't recommend. I've had other Jamaican restaurants reach out to me to help them with something, whether it's to buy a box of patty or whatever from me. I've helped in those different ways. But as far as to try to get to connect with them and talk to them about everything, I try not to do that. Simply not because I don't want to, just because we don't want conflict of interest. All right? And somebody start to accuse you of, you saw my idea and I told it to you. And so I try to avoid those. So you have to avoid those things as well. And finally, grow. Grow. This is big. Grow. So you got to keep constant focus on how to take your new business to the next level of growth. That involves going back to the first step, right? First step, where you start to research, you start to plan, yeah. And so that's it. So if you can just go back and start to research again and it's just a repeat of everything. But from my personal experience, it's important again. It's important from my personal experience that you constantly research and get the information that you need based on the times because things change. I'll give you a quick example. When we started, I had a loud generator. Right? Now, when you go to events, it's very rare you find someone with a loud generator. Most generators are silent. So you always have to keep it up to date with what's happening around you. Other than that, you wonder why your business is not working is because you're not keeping up to times and the new things that's coming out and things that are happening. All right? So that's very, very important. So you'll be ready to get started if you really go through these steps and dive into your business. I have a little bit more time, a few more minutes, if anybody have any questions that you want to ask, direct questions that would help you. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah.
How do you approach startup funding for a business if it's a big thing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that you can apply for grants, but I mean, to have a working budget
Mm-hmm.
to present.
Okay.
That's why.
That's a good question. Applying for grants, most of the the biggest one that's out there is SBA loan. And it's called SBA 7A or CA, SBA 7A or CA, one of the two. But there's an SBA loan out there to apply for if you wanted to start. And that one has super low interest rate. Not everybody is qualified for it, but it depends on what you're doing. And sometimes it's a loan that just gets you started, and almost like you have to have some kind of confidence in how you're going to turn that money back around to start to pay, because and some of them goes a very long period. Some of them do 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, depending on what it is. But SBA is a good one. Your local banks would be my first preference recommendation. If you have a good good relationship with your local bank, they will go to the bat for you. They will push for you. So that's your biggest friend is your local bank. But SBA will do it if you really don't not have anybody around and you kind of want to connect with a wider. They will give you a long term at a low interest rate. Most times, some of those loans require that you have some kind of asset. In other words, if you wanted to use your house as a collateral, the plus about that is, again, it's a long time. They give you a long-term loan at a super low interest rate between 2.5 to 4% interest rate. And to get a loan these days, you're talking about 7-8% interest rate, and possibly less than 20 years or up to 20 years to pay it back. So those are some of the approach. Again, it's always great if you're able to start with what you have and then you begin to add to it. When I started a food truck, for example, I had some savings, right? I had some savings and I had some ideas in where I was going to get that money from. COVID wasn't our friend, so I had to take the risk of saying, what do I put it in to multiply it, right? And that was it, the food truck. And I did that, and it was more than what we thought to going in, because that's another thing about business. You will start thinking that this is the amount you're going to spend, but when you get there, it's a whole different ball game. Because I remember I just wanted a little tiny truck, and I got there and I saw small, medium, and large, and I'm like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, I looked at the big one, and the person that was with me looked at me and say, and I knew, go big or go home. And that's kind of what we did. But again, we started with the savings, and then I had to borrow some more from a personal friend, but I had planning how to get it back to them, and I was able to do it quickly. And that's kind of how that. But it's always good to start on your own. But your local bank would be your second, and SBA could be the third. The way to get that. Good question. All right. Question? All right. Question? All right. Good, Pastor? Good. All right. Good? All right. You good? All right. Good job. All right. All right, guys. That's it for entrepreneurship session today. If you ever want to go deeper, if you ever decide to do your business and you want to go in depth with a specific business idea, I do consultation. All you have to do is go to one of our websites, missionsfornations.com or caribbeanjerkfood.com, and get that information. And sign up for a class, and an entrepreneurship consultation, and I'll be glad to walk you guys through that. Again, I do that all the time. I connect with people all the time, helping them to start their business, and I'll be glad to do that for you. Amen? Thank you all so much. You've been great students, and hope you use those information for our future. Amen. No problem.